Hello, all you loved individuals. This is Hope from I'm the Only Hope, and today we're going to be talking about just a little bit about me, just kind of getting to know me and what type of person I am, and I figure that's fitting for a first podcast. I am from the great conspiracy state, Idaho. Well, a very small town inside of it. Small enough to probably be considered a village, but luckily I got into a bigger population, so I'm not entirely devoid of human social interaction. I use humor as a coping mechanism, so expect a lot of dark humor within these podcasts, and I apologize to anyone who that offends. Only mildly, though, because it's my trauma I'm going to be laughing at, so. I guess the reason I primarily wanted to make this podcast is because I have met many people in my lifetime that truly believed they were struggling alone in their problems, in their specific situations, that felt like no one understood them or heard them when they were reaching out in some aspect and they were met with resistance or judgment. And that is the opposite of what I want to happen on this podcast, because this is a safe place, because there is tons of people everywhere that genuinely do want help and do want advice, but they are so scared to reach out and get that advice and get that help or just feel connected to someone because they're ashamed of what the situation has brought or what they did in that situation. And I don't want that to be the case when people need advice or just a listening ear. And that's why I wanted to create this podcast, because I have obscure advice that I've personally used to help other people. And if I haven't had a situation arise where I could personally find that advice, I would reach out to someone I know has been in that situation and seek their opinion on the subject if I cannot come to that myself. I am empathetic. I can feel people's emotions when I'm around them. I can read a room. It's all a very psychological standpoint on what most people would call reading auras or feeling auras. I'm not necessarily in that aspect of belief per se. I do believe that there's energies, and I am very good at picking up on those energies and feeling people's emotions to a specific extent to where I could find it in myself to relate to you, not having gone through that experience. There is almost not a bone in my body that is actually capable of judging someone unless they did it with no remorse. I understand that some people do bad things, but they regret them, and that is the point to me. Religious people would call that repentance, and non-religious people would call that just asking for forgiveness amongst the people they did wrong. But I believe if there's true remorse in a person's heart, then there is absolutely a chance, a second chance for them. And I want this to be a place where people can feel heard and feel like that second chance is being given to them, and they can get the advice to go further from there, or maybe accept what has happened and move on with it. One thing I will say is I do have ADD, ADHD, kind of a combination of both according to my doctor, but I will do my best to stay on track with a lot of this stuff. I don't take Adderall or anything like that because I'm not currently going to school, so I don't see the need to medicate myself. Which, if you do and you don't go to school, that's totally fine. Again, not here to judge anyone, but that's my personal choice. And I am very much the type of person that believes that after a certain amount of time and patience, one can master their own emotions if they have the willingness to. There are some people that don't, and that's perfectly fine. As long as it's not affecting me negatively, I say do what you need. But I think that the amount of power that a placebo has is insane. There are tons of examples for how just effective the placebo is by itself, believing that something can happen and physically your body changing to match that personal belief. And it works in so many different ways. So I personally utilize the placebo in my advice sometimes. I do understand that there are some things that placebo can simply just not help, but there are tons of different things that it can be assisting to. And there will probably be a lot of controversial opinions on this podcast, not necessarily political. I'm not a very political person. I care more about individuals than generalizing the public in any aspect. Again, this is an advice channel, not at all being done by a professional of any means. I've only done offhanded research in therapy and psychology throughout my life, and I have been to several therapists, and I do use the advice they give me when I give other people advice as well. This is purely my own personal advice for other people, and take it or leave it. It is entirely up to you. I am but a simple stranger in this huge world that you asked, well, what should I do? This is going to be a bit more of a patchy podcast because I don't have one specific topic that I'm covering, which would explain why I'm kind of going back and forth so much. But once I have my first solid piece of advice to give, it'll be so much easier for everyone to listen and follow me in one specific straight line that curves a lot because of the ADD, but it has one basis line for everything. But yeah, this is I'm the Only Hope. And thanks for listening to my first episode. I promise it'll be better on the next ones.